A very good evening to everyone, Vivek, Upen, and Obhijit, and welcome to the class of AZ104, that is Administrator Associate on Azure, Microsoft Azure platform. I am Apratim. I am your facilitator come trainer. Hmm. And thank you for sharing your information because those exchange of the information that we have already done, and thank you for sharing your information with me, and I'll be utilizing that information to add you into my Google Classroom, so that from today onward, whatever videos and whatever document in the class that I'll be sharing, that you can also have an access. But my only request is, as soon as you get the confirmation over the mail that yes, a video has been uploaded or a document has been uploaded, please get them downloaded. Hmm. I will keep my level best to keep all the videos and document till the end of the class, but Google doesn't provide too much of storage space, and time to time, if I have shortage of storage space, then I may delete some of the old document. But don't worry, before deleting, I will let you know. I will inform everyone. I will let you know, so that you can have enough time for at least download. If not now, then please ensure that you have downloaded the videos and documents. Right? So I have already, I am basically associated with AEM since 2006, and prior to that, I was actually working as a technical head for operation for Northeast region for Xerox Corporation almost for 15 years. Hmm. I'm a graduate in science with a diploma in electrical engineering, and I'm a certified trainer from Microsoft for Windows Server administration, and as well as Microsoft Azure. And I am also an impaneled instructor from Red Hat for Red Hat Enterprise Linux and Ansible. And for the last 12 years, I am basically a corporate trainer also, like corporate likes TCS, Cognizant, Ericsson, and many more. And recently, one training is also I'm conducting every day. Fine. That's actually starts from 2 to 6. That's also one training I'm conducting, and that is also from CEC. So this is all about my professional life. And personally, I have a daughter, and I am also associated with NGO for basically taking care of the elderly persons, and also I'm quite passionate about listening music, and I have a passion for photography. But since last 2 years, I have not gone anywhere. I have not gone anywhere. I've got totally stuck. From 2020, I totally got stuck. So all the cameras and others, they have been kept, not in use. But yes, definitely I listen musics and others. I will come to know about you people also some later time, because during time, if we feel bored, then the introduction part can be taken care of during that time. Now, let me explain the certification path. Actually, initially, when Microsoft started the certification program for Azure platform, likewise, their traditional way, you need to appear multiple paper and then used to get a single certificate. But frankly speaking, that didn't work. That trick didn't work for Microsoft, and they later on switched to role-based uh, certification, role-based certification. And actually, you are having three different role. Microsoft, they are having mainly two different roles. You are having two different role. One is the associate role, and you have the expert role. And yet there are multiple associate role based certification that you can have. For example, for administration, you have administrator associate. For data engineers, they have data engineer associate. You have developer associate. You have security engineer associate. So these are basically the associate level of certification, where you will actually learn to implement. You will learn how to implement. Now, once you become familiar with various ways to implement, then you can start designing. And most of the expert, except few in most of the expert platform, you will actually put more focus on designing part. For example, you have administrator associate, and from there you can directly jump to either DevOps engineer, or you can go for solution architect expert. And if you opt for solution expert architect, that's mainly the designing aspect. You know how to implement. Now, based on the scenario, what are the design that you are going to conduct, so that the corporate for whom you are designing the infrastructure that can meet their expectation. Now, here, this is the certification roadmap. Hmm. Generally, there are three stepping points. There are three stepping points that you need to touch. First one, the fundamental. Hmm. Azure do have a fundamental training and certification. The certification is known as AZ 900. It's cost 3,696, but it is not a very compulsion that you actually go through the fundamental training. Hmm. Because in fundamental, that's mainly they make you familiar with the component of the Azure infrastructure, but we will cover up that part as a part of the AZ 104 class itself, so don't worry about that one. Hmm. Most of the fundamental topics will be covered here. Then you have the associate. We have Azure administrator, AZ 104. Once you complete the training and wish to appear the exam, wish to appear the exam, then the exam cost is 4,800 plus tax, the GST, whatever may be the amount that comes. Hmm. And once you become associate, certified on the associate track, then we have AZ 305 that we are basically taking the training here. And very soon we are also going to start AZ 400. AZ 400 is actually on DevOps tracks. Fine. Expert on DevOps. So these are the two tracks we are having. We have already started 305 and we are having a plan to start 400, and maybe we will also start 500, that is the security expert. Maybe we'll start the security expert also. So this is our future plan, but currently we are having, after AZ 104, if you want to continue, then you can go for AZ 305. Now that is how does the certificate that looks like. The upper one, that is one of my student, Nirmalya, who has recently completed AZ 104. That's the new look of the certificate, and below that was my certificate of the in the architect level. It is an older look. It's an older look. Now when I will do the upgradation, then I will also get the certificate in the similar look. This is the older one, because every certificate they have a validity period. Nowadays Microsoft has actually made the validity of the certification 1 year. So within 1 year you need to upgrade yourself. You need to actually upgrade yourself. So that's basically the roadmap about the certification. Now first let us start with the Azure fundamental. So the first questions come, what is Azure? So Azure is basically the cloud computing platform which has been provided by Microsoft for building, testing, deploying, and managing the application and services through Microsoft Managed Data Center. So when I say Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing platform, so the next question that comes into our mind is, what is cloud computing? Then we will become aware that what is Azure. What is Azure? Now, before I jump to the concept of what is cloud computing, the various kind of services and the deployment model, etc., etc. First of all, Microsoft has actually introduced the concept of this cloud computing in the year 2008. But during that time, they have actually not came out with the solution, but they came out with the idea of having a cloud platform. So the project they have taken, the project was actually named as Project Red Dog, and formally it was released on February 2010 as Windows Azure. Fine, as Windows Azure. And later on in 2014, it was renamed as Microsoft Azure, and we are now continuing with Microsoft Azure. Okay, Microsoft Azure. We are actually continuing in the name Microsoft Azure. Okay, so what is cloud computing? So cloud computing is basically the on-demand availability of compute resource through the shared pool of resources without the direct active management by the user. What does that mean? Computing means what? Computing means the servers, computing means the storage, computing means the network, computing means lot many things, the application, everything. So when we are actually getting those services through some network, but where we are not involved in the management of the component through which we are getting the service, so that infrastructure is actually referred to as a cloud computing. means the computing resources when they are being provided through a shared pool of resource, but where we are not owning those resource, but we can take the advantage of the shared resource by getting them access through the browser and can get our things done, that actually referred to as cloud computing. Now the company who are providing this kind of services, that I can use their resources, hmm, to have my own data center infrastructure build up, they are referred to as cloud service provider or cloud provider. For example, Microsoft is one of the big name, Amazon another big name, and also you have Google, then Alibaba. But if you think about Microsoft and Amazon, they basically share the most, almost 90% of the total market of cloud computing. They are being dominated by Amazon and Microsoft, and rest 10% it has been scattered with Google, Alibaba and others. But they are all the cloud service provider, or I should say they are the cloud provider. They are the cloud provider. Now what are the benefits of cloud computing? See, first of all, it's quite cost effective because you actually do not have to invest a lot. You do not have to invest a lot, because if you want to have your own infrastructure, then it involves lot many things. You have to invest, you have to have the servers, and you also need the cooling environment for keeping the servers cool. Then you have to have the manpower for their maintenance, and then also you require the softwares, the applications, and time to time they are patching and update, that also require manpower as well as money. So lot of cost that is being involved. But here you actually have nothing. Here you are actually having nothing. You can actually take the services on rent. It's basically some, it's basically something called renting service. You are aware about that Ola or Uber service. You can still have the car service. You can still have the car service. Ola or Uber, they have the pool of cars, and you want to have your own car service. So actually you are not owning the car. You are not owning the car, but you can roam around, with the car provided by Ola or Uber. Here also it's the same concept. It's the same concept. And the beauty is, most of the cloud service provider, they basically provide you the consumption based pricing model. You consume and then you pay. If you don't consume, don't pay. Like, I don't want to take the service from Ola or Uber, so I'm not paying. I need a car now. I want to travel from my home to some location, and for that I need a car. So make a phone call, the car will come, take the service, pay as per the distance and others. So it's basically quite cost effective in that sense, because if you own the car, just imagine about whether you use or don't use, you have to continuously maintain it. So the maintenance cost is quite high, but here you do not have the maintenance cost. So the cost effective. Then it is agile, because it is able to adopt the changes very quickly, which is not possible if you would have the your own infrastructure. Because normally the cloud service provider, they always try to provide you everything latest, whether it's the hardware or whether it's the software. They are very much to provide everything latest, but that much of agility you cannot have in your own on premises infrastructure, because you have invested a lot to have a server. Maybe the server is of only 1 year. Now if the entire hardware platform, some new setup has come, it is not possible for you to invest that another high amount for having that new kind of server. But here the cloud provider, they do, and you can take the advantage of the everything which are latest, whether it's a hardware or whether it's an application, whatever it may be, you can get everything the latest. So it provides you the agility, and also it provides you the scalability. Now what is scalability? Scalability, that basically refers to that ability to scale, means you can increase, decrease the capacity, the power, the number. So when you are actually increasing or decreasing the number, that is referred to as horizontal scale. And if you are basically increasing the power or decreasing the power, they are actually referred to as vertical scaling. So the cloud based computing platform basically provide you both kind of scaling functionality. You can scale vertically or you can scale horizontally. And it is reliable also. It's a reliable also, because most of the cloud service provider, they have some sort of built-in redundancy into their infrastructure, so that if any component where from you are getting the service that malfunction, you have an alternate where from you can immediately get the service. So they provide you the reliability. They have their own backup system and all other things. And the beauty, it can be accessed from anywhere. Only thing that you require is an internet connection. If you have an internet connection, then you can have the service from anywhere of the globe, which is not possible for your on premises environment. In order to have the service, you need to reach your office, and then only you can have the service, or you need to reach that place where the servers are available, and then only you can have access to the service. But here the beauty is, you can be any part of the globe, but if you have an internet connection, then it can be accessed from anywhere. So these are few points, and you have lot many, but these are basically the fundamental benefits, because of which from the small to large size of organization, slowly they're inclining to the cloud platform. Guys, is it clear up to this much? Can I get a line of confirmation, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Vivek, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Fine, thank you for the confirmation. Now, what are the various kind of deployment model we can have? Because a cloud deployment model that defines the cloud services that we are consuming, and the responsibility model means who is going to manage what, who is going to manage what. Generally, we'll find there are four different kind of cloud deployment model which is available nowadays. The public cloud deployment model, the private cloud deployment model, the hybrid cloud deployment model, and the community cloud deployment model. Now let me take you through the details of each kind of cloud deployment model. First, let us start with public cloud. In public cloud, the services are being offered over the public internet, and it is available to anyone who want to purchase them. The cloud resources like the servers, the storage, they are actually owned and operated by the third party cloud service provider, and are being delivered over the internet. And this is one of the most, this is one of the most popular model of cloud deployment. Fine. This is the one of the most popular model of cloud deployment, because here, the advantage is, you actually do not have to own anything. You do not have to own anything. Everything is being provided by the cloud service provider. Only thing you need an internet connection, and you can start taking the advantage of the resources. You can take the advantage of the resources being provided by the service provider. Public cloud deployment model provide you high scalability. It provides you high agility. You can take the advantage of consumption-based pricing model. We call it pay-as-you-go pricing, and you are actually not responsible for the maintenance or update of the hardware. They are being taken care by the service provider, and with a minimum knowledge of the setup and use, still you can have your own data center infrastructure. So these are some of the advantage of this particular deployment model. Hmm. And it is also having its own disadvantage. For example, as because the cloud service provided, they always try to provide you everything latest. So in that case, you may have some application, some legacy kind of application. For that, you require the legacy kind of hardware. So they may not work in the cloud environment. And mainly in case where you need to have the control over the hardware, to have a control over the hardware, that also you not do, because direct access to the hardware is not possible in public cloud. Okay. Then the next one is private cloud. The next one is private cloud. Here the computing resources are used exclusively by users from one business or one organization. Hardware and resources, they are not shared outside the company. Now if you think about the infrastructure, the shared pool of resource where from we will have our own resource through the browser, then it may be physically located in our own organization's on-site data center, or it may be availed, or it may be hosted by a third party service provider also. But the thing is, it is dedicated for one business or one organization. People outside the organization, they cannot have access to those cloud resources. Okay. Next is hybrid cloud. Now this is the second most popular computing model. This is the second most popular deployment model in cloud infrastructure. And in this computing environment, it combines a public cloud and a private cloud, by allowing the data and applications to be shared between them. Now, why I have said it is the second most, because most of the company, they have already made a considerable amount of investment in the hardware of their own. And when they are basically trying to migrate their process into the cloud, they try to take the advantage of both. Some of them will run on our on premises environment because we are also having our own setup, and some of should be run in public cloud because of those additional advantages. For example, the scaling, the agility, which not be possible directly or immediately in our on premises environment. So that's actually referred to as hybrid cloud. Now the fourth one is considered community cloud. Community cloud is almost similar to your private cloud. It's almost similar to your private cloud, but the difference is, in the private cloud, the resources are actually for one organization or one business. But here, the resources are actually being shared by some community, common community. It is not open to all. Likewise, your public, it is not open to all. Not anyone they can have access, but it is also not private like private cloud. It is not also like private. They are actually been available or accessed by a group of organizations who actually belong to the same industry or same community, and that's why they are actually referred to as community cloud. For example, a cloud environment which have been shared by all banks. Fine, they are being shared by all banks, so that cloud environment is for the banking community. So that's why they are actually referred to the community cloud. Okay, so these are the four different kind of deployment model that we can have if we want to adopt the cloud computing service. Now let's see what are the various kind of services that we can get. Generally, the cloud environment can provide us three different kind of services, and they are referred to as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. In short, we call them IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Now, let me try to explain them from the management point of view. What is as infrastructure as a service, what is the platform as a service, and what is the software as a service? Let me try to explain it from the management point of view. Now, here, if you think about your own data center, what we have inside the data center, people who are already working in the data center environment, they are aware of what we have in the data center. In data center, we have racks. The racks are filled up with servers. All the servers, they are connected through the network. So you have lot many network component. You have the switches, you have the router, you have the cabling, then you have your storage, then the servers. On the server, we run some sort of virtualization software, and using the virtualization, we create multiple virtual machines. Each virtual machine, they can have their own operating system running over there. Then we can build up our middle tier environment. Then in order to deploy the application, we also need to build up the runtime environment for the application, and through the application we manage and maintain the data. So from the top to bottom, the software to hardware component, everything in the so-called traditional data center is managed by the IT team of that organization. Okay, now if you adopt the infrastructure as a service model, IaaS model, this particular service model is the most flexible category. It's the most flexible category because it gives us the most control over the provided hardware that runs our operating system and application. Hmm. This includes the IT infrastructure like the server, the virtual machine, the storage, the network component, even the operating system. Now, here, instead of procuring our own hardware, I can get it in rent. I can actually get it in rent. So you can see the picture that I have shown on the right hand side. the network, the storage, the server, the virtualization, even installing the operating system on the virtual machines, all are being done by the cloud service provider. Our responsibility start from the operating system. Once the operating system is being deployed by the service provider, they hand over the machines, the virtual machines to us. They hand over the virtual machines to us, and our responsibility starts from there. Our responsibility starts from there. Patching up the operating system, updation of the operating system, then installing the middleware. They are patching their updation, building up the runtime environment for the application, then deploying the application. They are patching their maintenance, everything. It is our responsibility, it becomes our responsibility. Sorry. Now some of the common use of the infrastructure as a service, that is, if you want to migrate your workload from your on-premises environment to the cloud, there you can go for the infrastructure as a service model. Then you want to have your own testing and development environment. You are basically trying to develop some software, but you have your own infrastructure. You do not want to disturb your infrastructure by testing that software, because you don't know what may be the ultimate result that will come out if you deploy it. So you can build up a similar kind of infrastructure in cloud, and you can use that for the testing and development purpose. Then if you want to have a storage where you want to keep your data, that also can be, that service also can be taken. Or you want to have a place where you can keep the data for backup and recovery. So for those kind of scenario, you can actually think about this, the infrastructure as a service model of the cloud service. Then you have the PaaS, and this is mainly a service model which is nothing but a managed hosting environment, you know PaaS provides an environment for building, testing, and deploying the software application. And the goal of the PaaS is to help everyone or you to create an application quickly without to required to manage the underlying infrastructure. For example, if you actually take Azure application service, if you take the Azure application service, Azure application service can help you to deploy web-based application using the platform as a service, where you do not have to install any operating system. Neither you require to have a machine where you need to install an operating system, and build up the web server, and then try to have the runtime environment for your application to run. Everything will be taken care by the service provider. You only concentrate on the application development, and the cloud service provider will give you the platform where from you can launch that application. This environment or this service is mainly used in development framework. It is actually mainly used in the development framework. Or if you want to use a kind of platform where you want to perform the analytics or business intelligence, for that purpose also you can take advantage of PaaS. The last one is SaaS, stands for software as a service. And in this service model, the cloud provider manage all aspect of the application environment. Means, for hosting purpose, providing you the virtual machine, then the network resource, the data storage, even they will build up the application for you also. Only thing, means the cloud tenant, they need to provide their data to the application managed by the cloud service provider. And one classic example of the software as a service is Office 365, which provides a fully working version of Office that runs in the cloud. That means you do not have to install Office in your laptop or desktop. Only thing is, you need to have an account to have access to the service. You open your browser, then provide your credential to take the advantage of Office 365, and everything is there. Everything is there that you can have access through the browser. You can have the Word, you can have Excel, you can have PowerPoint to create the presentation, the spreadsheet, the document. So you do not require to have those applications to be installed into your system. So that is the advantage of the software as a service. Okay, so these are the three main service model that we can opt from the cloud service providers. Guys, is it clear up to this much?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Okay,
Fine.
now
Yes, sir.
let us jump to the Azure 1 second, because we have actually started with the concept of having our own infrastructure built on Azure platform. Now let's see what are the kind of services that we can opt from Azure. Now here I have a small picture through which I have actually tried to explain the various kind of services that we can adopt from Azure. You know, the lower part of the picture is describing the data center infrastructure. Hmm. That is the physical data center infrastructure being managed by Microsoft in various parts of the globe where from they are providing us the services. Then you can have your own infrastructure service, you can have your platform service. You can also have various kind of security and management related functionality. And then if you wish, you can also create your own hybrid cloud environment. You can also create your hybrid cloud environment. Now whatever may be the total number of service is, they are mostly get categorized under this header. You have the compute service, you have the network service, you have the storage service, you have the mobile service, you have the database service, you have the web service, you have the IoT service, you have the big data service, artificial intelligence, and last but not the least is DevOps. So Azure, from their platform, they provide 200 plus numbers of services, and all those 200 plus services, they normally follows under these category. They normally falls under these categories. Now in our AZ104 syllabus, mostly we concentrate on the computing service, network service, and storage service, and with few numbers of PaaS service, with a few number of PaaS or platform as a service component. So if I start with the compute service, now what is compute service? They are basically often one of the primary reason why the companies they move to the Azure platform, because Azure they provide a range of options for hosting a range of applications and services. They actually provide you a range of option for hosting the application and the services over their compute service. So these are some of the individual service component. These are some of the individual service component. For example, you have the virtual machine. It's basically a computing platform where from you can get a Windows or Linux virtual machine that is getting hosted from Azure. Then you have virtual machine scale set. It actually provide you the scaling functionality for Windows or VM machines. Then you have Azure container instance, that is basically a platform service, you can say, that you can utilize the Azure platform in order to hosting the containers from there. Then you have Azure Kubernetes service. This is basically a managed service which provide you a Kubernetes platform where from you can run multiple containerized application. Then you have Azure Function. Azure Function is mainly an event driven serverless computing service which can be used for running codes. You want to run a code, but if you, to run those codes, you do not have to have a server. So Azure Function provide you a serverless computing environment where from you can instantaneously run the codes. Hmm. And now you have the storage service. Storage, the name itself is suggesting that what is the purpose. They are being provided you the space to store data. They basically provide you the place for storing data. Now so far the data is concerned, there are various kind of data that you can have. You can have unstructured data, you can have semi structured data, you can have structured data. Fine. So details about the data and their type I will be covering when I will go by the storage service. But here you are actually having four main of data storage services. For example, you have the blob storage. Blob storage, they are mainly been designed for holding the unstructured data. Even the structured data also can be stored there, but mainly designed for holding the structured data. Then you have Azure file storage. It's basically a platform service. Once again, let me tell, because it provide you the file sharing functionality. You can use SMB or NFS in order to share files over the network. Now when I say over the network, that means any part of the globe you can have access to the storage. It basically is it functions like as your NAS or file server, but the only difference is the file server they get configured into the local network, and this service is a managed service. You do not have to manage or maintain any file server, but you can get the same functionality of a file server which can be accessed globally all over the world. Then you have queue storage. It's a special kind of storage that store data for the purpose of queuing. And then you have the table storage. Table storage, they basically provide a service that can store non-relational structured data. We call it the semi-structured data, semi-structured data, or we also sometimes call structured NoSQL data. Hmm. Now, structured NoSQL data are being used by applications like WhatsApp, then Facebook. They basically store their data. The data are all structured, but they don't follow any kind of schema, so they are being referred to structured NoSQL data. So if you want to have your own application and there you want to have such kind of data storage, you can take the advantage of Azure table storage. Databases like MongoDB, Cosmos DB, they basically uses Azure table storage for that purpose. Then you have the network service. The network service consists of lot many component. It consists of lot many component. Now the main purpose of the network service is to link the network, computing resources, and provide them access to the application. That is the key function of the network service. Now, network functionality in Azure, they can include a range of options to connect the world, outside world, to the services and features which have been published through the global Azure data center. So here are some of the individual services. For example, you have Azure Virtual Network. Now, Azure Virtual Network is basically the LAN that you set, that is your LAN that you have set in the cloud, that you have set into the cloud, where you are going to keep your resources, where you are actually going to keep your resources. For example, your virtual machine, your storage, and others. Then you have the network security group. Network security group, they are actually used for the filtering network traffic, filtering the network traffic between the Azure resource in the Azure virtual network, and the outside world. Mainly it provides you some sort of packet filtering mechanism. Then you have Azure firewall. It implements high security, high availability stateful firewall functionality with unlimited scalability. Hmm. Then you have DDoS protection. It protects the Azure hosted application from distributed denial service attack. Then you have the VPN gateway. You have VPN gateway, you have the express route, and both are basically provide you a gateway service in order to connect your on-premises network with Azure virtual network. Now, when you are involving the internet, then that can be availed through VPN gateway. But when you are using the connection from the private connection provider, hmm, then you can have Azure express route. Then also you can have Azure virtual WAN, and virtual WAN can be used to create a unified wide area network that can connect multiple local and remote sites together. Then you have Azure load balancer. It basically provide you the load balancing service. Now when I say load balancing service, depending upon what kind of load, you can have various kind of load balancing service like Azure load balancer, Azure application manager, Azure traffic manager, Azure content delivery network. They are all basically taking care of the load balancing functionality, but in different level and different kind of data. Then you have Azure DNS. It is basically a hosting service, for the DNS domain that can provide the name resolution by using the Microsoft Azure own infrastructure. Hmm. Then you have the Network Watcher. Network Watcher is mainly a tool, that can help you to monitor and diagnose the network issues which have been arised, in various kind of scenario based analysis. Okay. So these are basically some of the important resources, and trust me, we'll work on almost all the resource in AZ 104. We'll work on almost all the resources in AZ 104. Now let's try to understand the global infrastructure of Azure, where from we are actually going to get the services. The Azure global infrastructure. Some of the terminologies which are being used here, we try to understand those terminologies. For example, Azure geography, Azure region, availability zone, region peer. What are those things? You know, Azure global infrastructure is actually made up of two key components. One, the physical infrastructure, and the connective network component. So these are the two main components that build up the global infrastructure. Now the physical component that comprise of 200 plus physical data center, hmm, arranged into regions and linked by one of the largest interconnected network in the planet. So actually, when Microsoft is providing their cloud computing service, they are having 200 plus physical data centers scattered all over the globe. Hmm. And they are actually being categorized into regions, and we can avail our service from the nearest region that we are having. Now with the connectivity of the global Azure network, each of the Azure data center, they provides high availability, low latency, scalability, and the latest advancement in cloud infrastructure, and they all run on the Azure platform. Now together these components, they keep the data entirely within the trusted Microsoft network and IP traffic that never enter the public internet. Please remember, maybe we are having access to the resource using a public internet, but the data that is entirely kept within the trusted Microsoft network, and they are not traveling over the internet. Okay. Now, Azure data centers are mainly the unique physical building located all over the globe that houses a group of network compute servers. And Azure geography is basically a discrete market, typically containing at least one or more region that preserve the data residency and compliance boundary. Now, geographies, they basically allow the customer with specific data residency and compliance need to keep their data and application very close. Geographies are fault tolerant to withstand compute region failure, though they are connected to the dedicated high capacity networking infrastructure of the Azure. Now, what is region? Azure region is nothing but a set of data centers. They are basically a set of data centers which are deployed within a latency defined perimeter and connected through a dedicated regional low latency network. Now Azure, they have currently 60 plus number of announced region, 60 plus number of announced region, and till date that is more than any other cloud provider. Azure makes it easy to choose the data center and region that are right for you and your customer. Okay, that means one region, it is basically a combination of multiple data center infrastructure, and collectively those data center provide the cloud computing service from that particular geographical location. So here is basically a picture. It's an old picture because I told it's a 60 plus number of regions that Azure is having, but it's a little bit of older picture which is showing 158 numbers of regions worldwide, because some of the region which actually get increased, they are not getting displayed here. Anyhow, I actually didn't get any better picture because nowadays Microsoft, they don't give this kind of picture. They actually provide some flash image, but in the PowerPoint presentation I cannot use those flash images, so I still using that old picture. But when I explain manually. I explain, okay, this is an old picture, but here Microsoft is providing access to lot many new regions also, and they have some planned region, by the year end of 2024. By the end of 2024, Microsoft is having a plan to launch 14 more numbers of region, 14 more numbers of region. Hmm. Places like Lebanon and others, Israel, Lebanon, even in that African country also. And even in the South America, not on the North America, but in the South American provinces, they are having a plan to open more number of regions, and they are already in some places they are being commissioned but is not started functioning. Maybe by end of this year few of them will become functional, and by end of 2024 14 more numbers of regions are actually going to get added into the feather of Microsoft Azure platform. Now, what is availability zone? Now, availability zones basically are physical separated location within an Azure region. Hmm. Each availability zone is made up of one or more data center. I said one region comprises of multiple data center. Now, if the data centers are actually been placed in geographically disparate area, but within the same region, for example, if I say Kolkata is a region, but Microsoft have a set of data centers in Mohestola, another set of data center in Sector 5, and another set of data centers in Bantola. That means here in Kolkata, Azure is providing us a region which is having the support for availability zone, because each of these physical separation they use their own infrastructure. They are not anyway connected with each other. They actually not connected by anyway, they are connected by each other. Now, the physical separation of the availability zone within the region, they protect the application and data from facility level issue. Facility level issue means if there is any outage in the data center itself, but as because you are having a different set of data center in a different geographical location which is having no interlink with the data center of this location, but they actually belong to the same city. So if you have an alternate copy of your resource into that data center, you can get an uninterrupted service. So the application which actually require uh, mission critical and 24-hour availability, there you can think about building them with the advantage of availability zone. So here you can see what does the availability zone means. So this darker blue, this is actually the region. This is actually having a region. Now one region, it can have one set of data center or it can have multiple set of data center who are geographically disparted from each another, and they have their own network, they have own cooling system, even their own power. The raw power which is being supplied by the power supplier, they are all different. Hmm. But they are interlinked with each other and provides the high availability functions. They provide the high availability function. Okay, now what is regional peer? Regional peer is basically a unique concept that has been used by Microsoft Azure. Each region within one geography that is been peered by another region in the same geography. Yes, there are few exceptions. For example, Brazil South, as because on the same geography there is no more region available, so it is peered somewhere outside of that geography. But in most of the cases, you have an alternate region been considered as the peered region within the same geography, because I told most of the cloud service provider they use some sort of redundancy. So here what happens, if you create one resource into one of the region, and if that has been considered your primary region, then immediately hmm, an alternate resource, immediately a copy of the same resource, immediately a copy of the same resource that gets created into the secondary region. It's basically helps you to take care of the regional failure, because in some cases if there is a complete disaster, maybe the earthquake or flood or whatever, maybe where a complete region becomes out of service, but your data is still safe, because you have a duplicate location where the data is kept safe. Now whether you'll be able to have access to that data or not, that is different issue, because when you are taking the advantage, you need to say I want to take the advantage of available in a data also. There you may get that advantage, but otherwise, this is an inbuilt redundancy that Azure they are providing. For example, in India, currently we are having three regions. Central India, physically it is available in Pune, which is also providing us the availability zone support. Then we have South India, that is in Chennai. Then we have West India, that is in Mumbai. And I think by end of December this year, we are getting one more here in India, that is in Hyderabad, and that is referred to as South Central India. South Central India. Fine. And you can see in India, that is a geography, and if Central India is the primary region, it is having a paired region in South India and vice versa. And West India is also having a paired region with South India. That means if I create anything in Central India, if this is Central India, and if I create a VM here, I have a duplicate instance of the VM that gets created automatically in Chennai. If I have a storage created here, I have a duplicate instance of the same storage created here. If I have a database, then a duplicate instance of the database will get created here. Hmm. So that is mainly for redundancy. That's mainly for redundancy. If you have a complete outage of the primary region, your resources are safe, your data is safe. Once the primary region is restored back, then they can actually use this secondary region as their deer to recover the data. Okay. Now, how we can have access to Azure? Accessing Azure is quite simple. We generally use Azure portal. That is one of the common way for accessing Azure, using the portal. Hmm. Alternatively, we can have Azure CLI. It is a command line tool, need to be installed in your system. You have the Windows version as well as Linux version or Mac version also, and from there you can use command in order to have access to Azure platform and manage the resources they are using fully command. Also you can use PowerShell. You can use PowerShell, and with the help of PowerShell also you can manage the resources in Azure. But for that you actually require to install the PowerShell module. You need to have the PowerShell module installed into the system. Okay. So this is all about the fundamental of the cloud. Now, in order to have access to the cloud resource, you need to have an account. And you need to have a subscription associated with that particular account. Now, what is Azure account? Azure account is basically a global unique entity that gives you the access to the Azure services and your Azure subscription. You can create multiple subscription in your Azure account in order to create the separation. Now, an Azure account that is mainly tied with a specific identity, and it holds the information like your name, your email, your contact preference, even the billing information. For example, you need to have a credit card for this one. Even Microsoft do say we support debit card, but there are lot of hidden thing they don't mention. But when we actually going to implement, use the debit card for creating your account, then you may get stuck because your debit card has to be either Visa and Mastercard enabled. There you need to have the international transaction enable. You should have an what should I say, uh, uh, that's online transaction. Your account is capable to perform online transaction. Lot many criterias, which are never told, are never told anywhere, so if all those criterias that matches, then you can use your debit card to create your account. Otherwise credit card is required. Then you need to have a subscription. You need to have an Azure subscription. Now, what is a subscription? Overall, subscription is basically the fundamental part of every IT service, which mainly provide you a link between a person and organization, and the resource that you are going to use, and the payment that has been associated with the utilization of the resource. and every subscription that you have, they have a certain time limit. So mainly the Azure subscription can be considered as a logical container which is been used to provision the resources in Microsoft Azure. And also you can consider this one as your billing boundary, because the billing that normally takes place for the subscription, the billing that normally takes place for the subscription, you may have an account, but the billing doesn't take place against the account. It normally get takes place against the subscription. So if you have multiple subscription, you can separate your billing. Okay, now Azure normally provide us various kind of subscription. You can have your free account subscription, also you can have your pay as you go subscription, even you can have your member offer. Now what is this kind of subscription? Let's start with free account. Now free account subscription, that is for the starting. In fact, we are going to open our free account subscription. If you have a credit card, you can open your free account subscription with the credit card. Debit card also been allowed, but I told you those criterias. You need to have an account, and against that account we can associate the free account subscription. And free account subscription, they provide you $200 credit, and the validity of that $200 credit is 30 days. You can use any resource, Hmm. And the price of that resource will be deducted from your $200 credit. But after 1 month, your free account need to be converted into pay as you go account. But there also you can take the advantage of uh, some of the free resources. They are being provided to you by Azure for remaining 11 months. So if you can use those resources tactfully, then the billing will not be too high. Trust me, I take a regular class on Azure, but my monthly billing after taking so many number of classes doesn't exist even 400 to 500 rupees. So that is in my case, that is for my case. Every day I have at least two classes for Azure, and everywhere I'm basically showing the practical using my personal account. So if you are basically creating your account and for your own practice purpose, once the 1 month credit is been consumed, then if you convert it into pay as you go, hardly 50 to 100 rupees will be billed. That also the maximum that I have told, but provided you have to use it tactfully, okay. Next is pay as you go. Pay as you go subscription. This is basically provide you the option that you consume and accordingly you pay. You consume and then accordingly you pay. The bills normally comes in monthly basis. At the end of the month, they will send you the bill, and previously the money used to get deducted directly from your credit card or debit card. Nowadays that is not possible because of the rule of the government of India, RBI rule. They actually ask your permission to deduct the money from the card information that you have provided, and once you allow them to deduct the money, then the money will be deducted from there. But if you don't allow, from the next month onward they will block the account, as simple as that. Fine. If you don't actually allow them, say this month they have generated the bill, they will provide you a option for 1 month, so that next within next month, next bill generation, you need to clear up the payment. But within the next bill, if the next bill also got generated but you have not cleared up the previous due, then your account will automatically get blocked. You clear up the due, within 5 minutes your account once again will become online. That's it. Then there is something called student subscription. It's called student subscription. It is not for you and me. Let me tell you, it is not for you and me. That's mainly for the students. They actually don't require any credit card or anything. They actually used to use their organization email address. Institute like a GIS or Brainware, they actually provide their user an email address. So you have to use those email address. In order to have access to your organizational resources, the email address that you use, the same email address need to be used, and you can only take the advantage of those account till the time you are the student. Hmm. If they say no, he was the student but currently he is not the student, then you cannot take the advantage of this student subscription. And then you have member offer. Member offer, member offer basically can provide you much reduced rate for Azure services. Like you have various kind of offer like MSDN platform service or Visual Studio subscriber service. Now these type of subscription, they offer substantial discount over a pay as you go subscription. So it is highly recommended that if you are actually trying to use this one for the business purpose, then you should opt any of the member offer. You should opt any of the member offer. But let me tell you, we don't take the member offer because we normally use this account not for commercial purpose. We don't use it for commercial purpose. We simply use it for practice purpose. So there the pay as you go will become much more cheaper. But if we are actually using for commercial purpose, then if we add off some of the member offer, then literally, if you compare it with pay as you go and member offer is much more cheaper. Okay. And as I told, billing, one bill is getting generated every as your subscription on monthly basis. Hmm. And the payment will be charged automatically. But I told, payment doesn't get charged nowadays automatically. Bank will send you the request to allow them to deduct the money from your card. And once you allow them, then only that much of amount will be deducted, that has been reflected into the bill. So guys, this is all about the fundamental of Azure. This is all about the fundamentals of Azure. And I hope by this time you have understood hmm, the Azure infrastructure and the way we are actually going to have access to the Azure. Now, I will help you to create your own Azure account. First of all, you need to create a Microsoft account. Don't use your Gmail or anything. Create a new email account, and that email account will be using for the purpose. So please go to Outlook, outlook.com, create a free account. If you are lucky, within 2 minutes the account will get created. But if you are not that much of lucky, it will take long time. Let me tell you, it will take long time. Do some permutation combination for creating the account. Give a name. You can select outlook.com or you can select hotmail.com. You have to go through lot of questions, lot of puzzle, blah 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 blah. If you are lucky, by solving one puzzle you will get access to the account. And if you are not that so lucky, maybe 5 times, 6 times, even 10 times also you have to resolve the puzzle, and then only they will help you to create the account. And once the account gets created, once the account that gets created, log in here, azure.microsoft.com, then en hyphen India, English India, then free. Fine. Or else you can make a Google search also. You can make a Google search as your free account. And you will be redirected to this page. You will be redirected to this page. Built in the Azure with an Azure free account. Click on Start Free. Fine. There, use your email address for the login purpose. The email address that you have just created, use that Outlook or Hotmail access for the login purpose. And once you log in, once you logs in, let me show you how does it looks like. Even though I'm using the account, this is not eligible for free account, but still just to show you. I am is using two-way authentication, so I need to activate my authenticator. Haha. Fine, no issue. They will tell that you are already having an Azure account. I know that this is already associated. This is already associated, but you will be provided that page. Will be provided that page where you actually need to provide your email address, then your telephone number. Then they will verify the phone by sending some message. Then you have to put that message. You actually need to write up that message, or the number that will come. Then you have to provide your card information. They will deduct 2 rupees for validate the card, and from there they will actually create a account for you. They will actually create the free account. They will provide you the access to the free account from there. So that is the actual method of creating the account. That is the actual method of creating the account. So try it because I cannot show you, because all the account that I am using, they are all paid, so I cannot show you how to create. But if you can able to create your Outlook account, if you can create able to create your Outlook account, and if you have your credit card, then you can utilize your credit card to create your account. If required, on Sunday class I may help you. Hmm. It will be one to one, and I will help you to create your own account, because from that day onward we are actually going to start doing up the practical activity, for which we need to have our own account. So you can create your own account maybe Saturday. You try it, it is self explanatory. Try it on Saturday. If you can create it, then the same account can be utilized from the Sunday onward, or we may spend 5 to 10 minutes time on Sunday to help everyone to create their own account. But the thing is, before creating, you have to have your Outlook account. Don't say let me start creating the Outlook account now and then help me to create the associate this account with Azure free subscription. Hmm. So please create the Hotmail account or Outlook account in between before the Sunday comes. You can try to create your free account, no issue. But if you are not able to do so, I will help you to do that. But the thing is, you have to have your Hotmail or Outlook account created beforehand. Okay. Now, guys, any query? Guys, any query?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, Abhijit, you are audible.
Sir, just tell me once again the link where we can create the account, not the Outlook account, the Microsoft Azure account.
Azure.microsoft.com.
Azure.
Microsoft.com. I'm giving it into the chat.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Vivek, clear?
Clear, but I actually create a Outlook account, but
Mm-hmm.
puzzle is not solved. Already tried to 4 to 5 times.
What? For that puzzle
Puzzle.
solution.
Yeah, puzzle
Yeah, I
solution.
told you. If you are lucky, within a single solution you can get, or else keep on trying, and keep on trying. Because when I opened the account, I had to try for 10 times. Then only it allowed me to create the account. I don't know why so funny thing Microsoft has started.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to continue to try. You have to continue to try, and it will. But you have to continuously try that one.
Okay, let's check.
Open? Clear?
Sir. Yes, sir. Let's try.
Yes, please try it.
Okay, okay, sir.
And once you are able to create your account, please confirm me, because you are already having my WhatsApp number. Please confirm me in the WhatsApp number that you have been able to create your Microsoft account, not Azure account, Microsoft account, because that Microsoft account will be used later on as your Azure account. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for joining, and hope to meet you on Sunday. I believe you know the timing, 10:30. Sorry, 3:30.
3:30.
Yeah, 3:30.
3:30. Okay, 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 sir.
Fine.
Ajahn.
Uh, are you the part of the group? Are you the part of the group? Does
No,
Shurupa
sir.
madam has shared any link?
Till now, I have not received any
Obi, maybe
group.
tomorrow she will share the link so that you can also join into the same group. Because I normally communicate with my student through the class group. We have a WhatsApp group for every class. Hmm. And the link to join the group is gets shared by Shurupa madam. So she will share the link with you. And once you become the member of that group, so the further communication related to the class timing or any other thing that normally takes place through that group. Okay. So even
Okay, okay.
if she is not adding you into the group, I'm just telling you the time. The time is 3:30 p.m. Sunday. The same link, the link you are using now, the same link. Maybe during that day it may have some password, it may not have some password. If it is having password, and if you are not a part of the group, then please let me know, because you are already aware of my WhatsApp number. Please let me know, and I will share the password there.
Okay, sir.
Normally I
Okay.
don't use any password, but sometimes it creates problem, because for last 2 days I have seen some unwanted person, they are unnecessary having access to the account, and they are making the people kicked out from the class. They have actually got that one as a fun. Okay, so they are just
Okay,
doing
okay.
that one for the sake of fun. So mainly the account actually got hacked. So the only way to protect this one is through providing the password. If the same thing
Okay, sir.
happening on Sunday also,
Okay.
then I will provide a
Okay,
password, and I will let you know about the password, because I am having your WhatsApp number. Okay.
sir. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
and
Thank
have
you,
a
sir.
sir.
nice
Thank
day.
you. Good night, sir.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you, sir.